Hey all, I don't get it. Why do some people consider the forest their own personal dumping ground? I come across junk all the time while metal detecting in the woods, and recently I found a discarded television far from the nearest road. I wonder how it got so deep in the woods in the first place, and my imagination comes up with some pretty improbable methods. Anyway, it certainly doesn't belong in the forest, so I was able to grab the circuit board and fit it into my backpack. I'd rather not risk having our forest creature friends munching on things like capacitors and resistors. So when I'm outdoors, I try to have a day pack with me so I can at least remove some level of selective junk I run across in every outing. It just doesn't belong there. So, what to do with this circuit board? Well, we'll recycle it, or if you prefer the term, scrap it. Some scrap yards have a category for low grade circuit boards, like this one. Mine doesn't, so I'm doing a little micro scrapping, starting with the removal of the insulated wire. Just about any metal can be recycled, and it makes plenty of sense to do so. For example, if you recycle 100 pounds of steel, it saves 140 pounds of iron ore as well as 80 pounds of coal. In addition, by scrapping steel, the energy utilized is 72% lower compared to mining ore. For copper, the energy savings is about 85%. The numbers for aluminum are just amazing to me. There's about a 95% energy savings from recycling and scrapping. Bauxite is the primary material that aluminum is made from, and for every 100 pounds of recycled aluminum, we're saving 800 pounds of bauxite ore. Bauxite is still mined in the United States, but in very limited quantities. Where it is mined is Arkansas, Alabama, and Georgia. The U.S. imports the vast majority of bauxite it uses. In the 1950s, Jamaica was the world's leading producer of bauxite. And today, bauxite is still an important part of the Jamaican economy, but there are community and environmental concerns that have made many of its residents pretty upset. Bauxite is near the surface, so it's basically strip or open pit mining. It's a dusty and messy process. The mining companies reserve some of the topsoil for remediation use later. That's great in theory, but a lot of agricultural land has been ruined in Jamaica. Doesn't always work as planned. So once the ore is mined, it's transported by rail or truck to a processing facility where it is crushed. The crushed ore is then transported to a plant where it's refined into a material called alumina, which is basically aluminum oxide. The whole process to get the aluminum oxide is extremely energy intensive with really bad side effects on the environment, including water quality and fish habitat. But the good news is, once aluminum is made, it's infinitely recyclable. When aluminum is scrapped or recycled, we're skipping the whole mining and refining process. As a result, and I've mentioned this already once, only about 5% of the energy is required to create new aluminum versus making it from bauxite ore. Another way to look at it is if you recycle one aluminum can, just the energy savings to make another can is enough to power a 100-watt light bulb for 4 hours. As I watch this liquid form of aluminum being poured, I think of the insanity of mining ore when there's so much aluminum already out there. And certain states certainly do better than others on aluminum cans. In Maine and Oregon, about 85% of aluminum cans are recycled, But in West Virginia, the number is only 7%, and there are many states that have a rate of below 20%. All right, now I'd like to get back to the circuit board and point out the aluminum heat sinks that populate it and remove them to be scrapped. Aluminum is lightweight, has excellent thermal conductivity. It's on a circuit board to transfer heat away from components that might blow up or overheat. The aluminum disperses the high temperatures and mitigates the risk of a cooked board. So once the heat sinks are removed, there are these little doodads called MOSFETs attached that should be removed. These are components that can get pretty hot when they are doing their thing. Once the MOSFET is removed, you have a clean piece of extruded aluminum. My scrapyard has a category 4 aluminum extrusion, which describes the process of making the aluminum, essentially pushing it through a mold versus a particular aluminum grade. It has a bit more value relative to other aluminum, which I'll be talking about later on in this video. On the upper left, you can see our clean extruded aluminum, and between that and the screwdriver are little doodad MOSFETs. The MOSFETs have copper in them, but for now, all that is except for one, they're going into the plastic container. The MOSFETs can be scrapped as is for a low value, or the outer shell can be removed to reveal a beautiful piece of copper. Copper is scrapper's gold, the highest value non-precious metal accepted by a scrapyard. And as I'm making a final check with a magnet to assure there are no ferrous metals such as iron prongs in our aluminum, we conclude with the second reason I hauled back the circuit board. At this point, it should be obvious that recycling or scrapping the board saves both raw material and energy, which is great for our planet. It would be difficult making a living micro-scrapping, but it is a rewarding hobby, and you have to keep in mind that it all adds up. I want to share some current values, and we'll start at the bottom of the scrap pyramid and work our way up. The board, as pictured, could be taken into the scrapyard to shred, and you'd get around 5 cents per pound. Some scrapyards actually have a category for low-grade boards like this, and they currently pay around 11 cents per pound. Now, we depopulated some of the components on the board, such as these transformers, and they currently go for about 35 cents a pound. And I mentioned the recyclability of aluminum cans, and they go for about 49 cents per pound. However, if you live in a state that has adopted a deposit law, it's financially much better to redeem them for the deposit. All the internal wire that we removed would go as computer wire, and we'd get about 59 cents a pound for it. Now, these heat sinks would be considered extrusion and would sell for 65 cents a pound. Now, if my magnet had picked up some steel posts and they weren't removed, this would go for dirty extrusion and pay only 46 cents a pound. Remember that little piece of copper we got out of that MOSFET? Well, that would actually go for $3.30 per pound. And once I take this copper wire off this spool, that will also go for $3.30 per pound. We could remove other goodies on the board, such as the integrated circuit chips, but whatever is left of the board can still be recycled as shred. So I removed the circuit board from the forest and recycled it, both actions being good for the environment, and it fed my micro-scrapping hobby, which actually generates some cash. And I find all of this to be gratifying and extremely fun. And this all stems from my metal detecting hobby, which has certainly got a bad rap over the years. Take a look at this video from 1975.
I always thought the banjo was the one thing that could have saved Nixon. You know, if he went on television and went, "Hi, everything's great." I hate to talk about Nixon because I kind of feel sorry for him, you know. I have this image of him walking along the beach in San Clemente all by himself, you know, with a metal detector, you know. Found the quarter.
Well, today you can still find a quarter on the beach, but along the way you're getting plenty of fresh air and exercise. In addition, you're just about guaranteed to find items to scrap. And if you detect along a beach long enough, you are sure to come up with interesting and sometimes valuable pieces of jewelry. I enjoy exploring the forest with my metal detector where I'm sure to run into some wildlife. I still remember the day this grouse followed me all around, became my friend, and was very interested in everything that I dug up. I find a lot of things while out hunting, like old coins, delicious edible mushrooms and berries, metal artifacts, gold nuggets, Native American artifacts, and much, much more. I've certainly become an eager reader of history of anything that I've found. And of course, metal detector in hand or not, I always come across metal to scrap. And it's all a blast. I hope you enjoyed this video at least half as much as I love putting it together. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a like and even subscribe. I'm pretty busy doing things outdoors, so I promise not to inundate you with a bunch of crappy videos. Happy trails!